Now, in just under an hour, an overnight curfew in Tunisia will be lifted, marking the start of another day of political uncertainty. A so-called unity government is falling apart barely 24 hours after its formation. 4 opposition ministers have ditched their roles in the new administration, and in an apparent move to distance themselves from the ousted president Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali, the interim prime minister and president have resigned from their positions in the ruling party. All this as a key opposition figure returns from exile. Monsef Marzouki says he intends to run for president. We'll be hearing from him in a while, but for now, the people who brought about this historic change are far from satisfied. Protesters claim the new government is the old guard in disguise. James Hayes went out to meet the people of Tunis, who say they'll keep demonstrating until they get real change.
Running battles on the streets of Tunis just one day after a new unity government promised an end of repression. Is this democracy and freedom, one protester shouts as tear gas is fired from a canister that flies towards our feet. The protests started in the morning in relatively small groups. They were angry, but nothing like the numbers that gathered before President Ben Ali fled last week. But there was absolutely no sign of a new, more conciliatory approach from the already unpopular police. Word by now had reached the streets of the first resignations of members of what was supposed to be a unity government.
I just heard now that the new government is going to collapse.
You think it will collapse?
Because 3 of the unity members resigned. Did you hear that?
The ancient regime of the dictator Ben Ali.
The old regime is still here?
Yes, with a new face and a new person, like Ghanouchi and Fouad Lembaza. It is the same regime.
The police tried to stop our interview.
Sir, your Prime Minister said freedom of the press yesterday. You're trying to stop that?
But they weren't able to stop the demonstrations.
These protests appear to be growing. They were very small in number at the beginning of the day, but the police started dispelling them with tear gas. The protesters regrouped, and each time they gather again, more people seem to be joining in.
I'm 19 years old, okay? And I'm here to fight for my freedom and for my country.
Why are you unhappy with the new unity government?
Because it's the same government. It's the same government. Nothing is changed, not really. They're lying to us.
Ordinary people not part of the protests were caught up in the mayhem. With the trouble continuing on the streets, ministers resigning, and others said to be on the brink of leaving if their conditions are not met, this remains a country in crisis. James Bays, Al Jazeera, Tunis.
We're expecting Monsef al-Marzouki to arrive anytime soon, but his supporters are already here. They're chanting slogans asking for radical reforms in Tunisia. But it remains to be seen whether the young Tunisians who took to the street to overthrow Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali still remember a man who spent years in exile.
The neurologist who once ran against the former president Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali, but the challenge to the authoritarian rule only led to harassment, detention, jail and forced exile. He struggled for the right words to say.
How do you describe this moment, your return to Tunisia? How do you describe it?
Like you see it, it's extraordinary. It's something extremely moving. Extremely moving. This shows where the Tunisian people want his freedom, and he's getting it.
Al-Marzouki described the unity government as illegitimate, but called on the Tunisians to stay united.
First, no violence, no violence. We must keep this revolution peaceful. This is the first thing. And then we must stay united.
And many Tunisians will indeed unite behind Marzouki.
I'll vote for anybody but Zine al-Abidine. He killed our kids and made us suffer.
But others are skeptical.
I don't know, Marzouki. This is the problem, you know. In 23 years, you know, they've been hidden behind all those jails, all those boundaries, and I really don't know him. I don't know his program. I don't know what he wants to say. But let's give him a chance to express himself and to say what he wants to say.
Leaving no room for compromise, Marzouki said Tunisia should bring Zain al-Abidin bin Ali back to meet justice.
Yes, extradite from Saudi. Because he's a criminal, he's not because the people want him back. Because the people want him back.
And do you think the next government will be able to do that?
Yes, we will ask for his extradition.
But it's too early to tell whether the Tunisians will be convinced that this man could be Tunisia's first democratically elected leader. Hashim Ahbarra, Al Jazeera, Tunis.